Hi, I'm Jay Phelan. Thanks for watching. Let me ask you something. Does it seem messed up? We go to grade school and high school for so many years, and then college, sometimes even more. And during that time, we take a huge number of classes and we're exposed to a huge amount of content, ideas, concepts, theories, facts, examples. And here's the thing. For all the learning we're trying to do that we want to do, we're never taught about the most effective way to study and learn. The one skill that extends across every class and influences whether you gain deep mastery or just superficial recognition, and we're left to figure it out on our own. Did we get it right? Probably not. It's so ludicrous that it seems like it must be a joke, but it's not, and all that changes today. There are thousands of smart, hardworking education researchers, and they've been toiling away, figuring out, how do we learn? How do we make things last in our memories better? How do we transfer what we've learned to novel situations? We don't want to be regurgitation machines. We want to have deep knowledge. I'm going to give you some of the critical knowledge right now. You may be wondering, why should you listen to me? Fair enough. I'll start with this. I was a terrible student. And why was that? I didn't know how to study. No one had ever taught me how to study, and because of that, I didn't know what to do, and I was inefficient, and I ended up performing badly. I failed classes. I know what academic probation is. I know what subject to dismissal is, and that was bad. But here's the thing. Over the course of several years, I learned what the most effective methods are, and I adopted them. I learned how to learn, and that helped me turn things around. I've also taught now more than 20,000 students at UCLA, and I've co-written a book explaining how students can get more from their college experience. And all this worked, enough that I was able to get a master's degree from Yale and a PhD from Harvard. Here I am leading the graduation parade at Harvard. I've distilled the massive body of research down to a few techniques that I think you should be able to implement, and they'll help you learn more efficiently and effectively. So let's get to it. I'm going to give you 4 things to incorporate to improve your studying and learning. The first one is this. Take your own notes rather than reading someone else's or the instructor's PowerPoints that they have posted. This is called the generation effect, and it's based on the premise that we know very well that taking notes is better than having notes. Here's an example of a study that got at this. They compared how well did students do on an exam if they used notes that were given to them by the instructor versus if they took their own notes. And they did it with different types, either outlines or question and answers. It didn't matter. But what were the message from these data? Students performed significantly better when they had generated the notes themselves. That can be counterintuitive, right? You think, hey, if you could just post your notes, we could focus more on what you're saying. Turns out that doesn't matter as much. The thing that's valuable about taking notes is this. It's incredibly cognitively taxing. It takes a huge amount of brain effort. If you are just copying things, it doesn't take much cognitive effort. There are people who measure these things. If you are just reading a passage, it doesn't take very much. If you're a novice playing chess, it takes a lot of cognitive effort. If you're an expert playing chess, it takes a huge amount of cognitive effort. Guess what comes just above that? Taking notes. Taking notes in class is hugely cognitively taxing. That's a big part of why people are averse to it. They don't want to. It's hard. It requires total focus of your brain. My wife is an educational researcher, and she has a great saying. It's that learning is hard. I like to flip it around. I say hard is learning. In either case, it's because you have to be undergoing high cognitive effort in order to learn something. So if something is hard, that doesn't mean, oh, you're doing it wrong or you shouldn't do it, this is a bad idea or it's just too unpleasant. It means learning's happening. That's a good signal for you. When you take notes, it's not just that you're recording what happened in lecture. You're not just acquiring content. You're activating brain processes that are involved in learning and memory. You're increasing your attention to verbal and body language signals to what's important, what's less important. It demands active engagement. And it doesn't matter that your notes don't look like the beautiful figures and drawings from the book or lecture. That doesn't matter. Here are some of mine. They just have to capture the essence of what the idea was, the content. All right, that's number 1. Number 2 is create better notes. You're taking notes now. How do you make them better? Well, you have to go beyond what's on the slides. You need to have a clear organization. You have to have an obvious framework for hierarchies of importance. You have to have critical specifics. A lot of this the instructor isn't going to put on the slide. You have to be listening for this. I think as a rule of thumb, if you're trying to figure out if your notes are effective, is this. If you have a roommate who's not enrolled in the class, you should be able to give them your notes and they should look at them and know exactly what happened in class. Not just what was covered, but what it meant. All right, number 3 is this. You want to practice using the material in ways that are similar to how you're going to be tested on it. A very effective method for doing this is to start with your notes and create questions. Go through every line of your notes, everything that was covered in class, turn it into a question. For every class, it might be 20, it might be 25 questions per class. Here's what it looked like for me. Then what you want to do when you've got the questions for a lecture or for a couple of lectures, you want to write your answers without looking at your notes. You'll see the question. All you're really trying to do is recreate what happened in class, but it's hard. You're like, oh, I remember we covered that, but you can't do it very well. Still, stick with it, write it out without looking at your notes. When you're done with all of them, now check your answers by looking at your notes or the textbook and rewrite them. How could you make it a perfect answer? You're still writing it, but now you get a little bit of help. When you're done with that, you want to throw out your polished answers, because remember, there's no value in having beautiful polished answers. You want to be able to create them. That's what the knowledge is. And then you do it again. This is what your studying is. You want to do this right after the class is or during the week it's covered, and you want to do it throughout the quarter. Make sure that you've written questions about every objective from your class notes. An analogy to why this is useful is this. Let's say you're going to be graded on your pole vaulting abilities. That'd be a tough class. You might buy a book, how to pole vault. You might watch some videos on YouTube, how to pole vault. But what else are you going to do? You're probably going to do a lot of pole vaulting, right? Well, if you're going to be graded on how you can use the material, writing sentences about biology, analyzing things, that's what your practice should be. All right, number 4, you have to space out your studying throughout the term so that you have a chance to learn the material, and then time goes by so that you can forget it, and then you have to relearn it. That seems counterintuitive. If you're going to learn something but then forget it, why'd you bother learning it in the first place? Turns out that when you forget it, it's not that it's completely gone from your head, it's still there. When you relearn it, it solidifies it in your brain. It allows you to connect it with your prior knowledge, with new stuff you've learned in class, with other stuff that you know, so that you're able to use the material better in a lot of different ways. There it is. 4 things for you to do. I hope you're able to do them. Good luck. I know you can do it. Bye.